Now, I don't mean it's trash. No. I just mean that after some very thorough inspectioning, it feels like more effort went into giving each of these puppies all the bones and springs they could handle. And sure, some of you more astute individuals
These roses. Hope you like them.
might call that a good thing. But you know, under all that stuff, what you might find is, well, a slightly less ass-shaped experience. You know what? I'm not sure where I'm going with this analogy. When it comes to the story, I've never cared or been too interested in the stories when it comes to Hoyoverse or this type of game in general. Maybe it's the impression that these games are made to basically suck your soul and wallet dry, so it's really hard to shake that feeling that the story just came out from somewhere behind a Dave Chappelle door. So you know, with all that cringy, over-the-top anime tones and word choice, never was an itch I felt like scratching. I blame this demon spawn piece of shit. Now for the times that I did just swallow everything I just said and sticked around for some of the story, thanks to no particular reason. Oh, I can't skip, huh? Okay. From what I did watch, I can say that it felt a lot more down to earth compared to Genshin Impact, for example. It went for a lot less slop shit to a lot more cool anime shit, and the idea of your character not fighting but instead commanding a bang boo that works more like a support in gameplay and a hacker slash guide when it comes to the story. And there were a lot of cool moments that really did stand out and were interesting without knowing the overall plot, and that's gonna be all I have to say about the story.
Your journey ends with
Now of course the combat of ZZZ is what at first really got me to try it in the first place, and it is as good or better than it looks. Your team consists of 3 characters and your bang buddy, and you can of course switch between your characters, which follows the order shown above. So there's probably a lot of optimization to be made there. Paired with each of the characters' core skills, which you have to unlock, this is also where you're going to read and find out about synergies that you might have with other characters. Each of the characters' core skills, which you have to unlock. This is also where you're going to read and find out about synergies that you might have with other characters. There is also a daze bar, which when filled will stun the enemy and increase its damage taken, and also allow to more easily trigger follow-up attacks. And also the anomaly gauge, which will trigger effect for each type of anomaly or a disorder when mixed together. Each character has an ability that can also be enhanced, as well as normal attacks that also have a held down version or heavy attacks, and also dodge attacks. If the enemy has a yellow glow, you can switch between characters to parry or simply dodge the attack, enhancing your next one. And you can also dodge attacks with your abilities. Now, if you're anything like me, your experience is probably going to be something like or
the final act begins. This'll be
which leads me to my next point of possible repetitiveness feeling, which only really shifts when you come across a boss that actually requires you to pay attention, and even this I don't feel like is enough to break that feeling entirely. As for the character building and leveling, that's pretty much what you expect, being tied to your stamina, so daily grinds, and there are also some items that are locked weekly. The Wipeout Effect, which triggers every time you kill the last enemy, is also pretty cool for like the first time you see it. So at times it can be a little bit annoying, but there is a chance that you can get some pretty cool pose finishes or, you know. So I'll take it. Now what I am a fan of and very much enjoy is all the mini games and events that the game has, like Fall Guys or the sometimes cool, sometimes annoying TV hacking sections, but specifically the arcade.
Oh, hello there!
That has a few games, but the fun ones for me was the Snake game and Bizarre Brigade.
I love Bizarre Brigade.
It's basically a roguelike with waves of enemies and coin currency, which a shop appears after each wave, and eggs, which there's a chance to spawn a special shop before the regular shop, which has special items of course. And I like the diversity for a side arcade game. Each character has its own passive ability that can be impacted or synergistic with certain items, and even characters that you can buy to follow you around and also attack. From characters like Raiden, which instead of characters you buy following you around, you instead absorb their abilities, so you kind of make yourself a super soldier, to something like Einstein, which causes an explosion every time you collide with an enemy, to a fucking money bag that can hardly even move, but it's basically a huge magnet that sucks up all the items dropped by the enemies, and of course there's a lot of ways that you can make your character OP. But my favorite event so far has to be the Arc Knight knockoff, which is basically tower defense, although very easy. I did have a fun time playing it. The character animations is probably the coolest shit you'll ever see, and the elegant smoothness that drips off really fits the feeling of the gameplay itself, like the ability to dodge whenever you want, and you can definitely see the effort that went into this. There's also a lot of the character personality in the combos and movement of the character themselves. Evelyn being all elegant, whilst others being more clumsy or serious and to the point. You know, you have something like Yixuan or whatever the
Master Shifu!
which is just, oh, look at that. Just, oof. I think by far I enjoyed her gameplay the most. To something like Corrin, which the best part for me with Corrin is every time you tag in, she immediately goes, and she's just like, and then on the flip side, you have something like Miyabi. And this might be a good time to talk about how, at least for me, the game runs into problems that, for example, something like well, I'm going to talk about P5X because that's what I'm playing. But turn-based games in general, while you might put some focus on the character's appearance, the damage numbers or utility is what will stand out the most. Which is why I feel like a lot of characters in that game, although being 4 stars, you could consider them 5 stars. But the point is, in ZZZ, the appearance and the moveset of the character are a lot harder to separate, since if she looks cool but doesn't feel cool, I just want player regardless of the utility side. And then there is also something like characters just wanting to come in and just like do their thing and then get off field immediately, which in a lot of cases is a good thing, but you know, just leaves a little bit more to be desired when wanting to kind of just use these characters, because I find myself just using Evelyn because she all the time without switching over to anyone, just because it's just fun to play with her like that. But yeah, hopefully I made at least some sense there. I also want to add the level design feels the same across the board, and there isn't much diversity when it comes to that, but there are at least some events that require you to interact with like your environment, or at least like throw barrels or enemies that just roll around and hit the boss. I wish there was more of this like across all the levels, just to kind of break away a little bit from all the mashing. And as for the monetization, I haven't really felt any need to spend any money. Everything seems doable so far. Of course, there is more to say to this, like for example needing 2 teams to complete certain missions, and a lot if not all of them have like a time limit, which is a nice thing, might I add. For those who like fighting like their own ghosts and improving, I can see this being a fun part of the game. I do feel like Persona is a lot more generous, but there is also the fact that ZZZ spreads its currency across a lot more things than Persona. Like there's just so much more to do, so I don't really feel comfortable comparing the two just yet. And unfortunately, the game does suffer from treat the player like a
mentally disabled person,
having the most boring and non-engaging mechanics or puzzles that you could imagine. And if that wasn't enough, they also have a tutorial, which, you know, now that I think about it, I don't really blame them.
They pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies, but we've learned some pretty good things about certain elements of genius that can be given to a baby, and the baby can get better. I don't see it not going to be easy, but it would be good instead of one visit where they pump the baby, load it up with stuff. You'll do it over a period of 4 times or 5 times. I've been so into this issue for so many years just because I